We are so excited to have Chad and Tori Masters here with us. Welcome, you guys, to the Naked Marriage Podcast.
Thanks for having us. We're so excited.
Yes. We got to meet them in person not too long ago, and now we're getting to be with them again in person. So if you are listening to this and you want to see these beautiful people, go on over to our YouTube channel. But to start off the podcast, I would love to just hear your all's love story, like how you guys met.
How much time you
It's a long
We want to hear it all. We want to hear it.
Here, I feel like you give a
We'll
better
save a little bit
brief
for the movie
synopsis.
because we want to leave a
right.
little mystery for when when the movie studios pick this up.
Oh, Hallmark Channel.
I'll give you the short version.
Love Hallmark.
Then. It was a warm summer day, and
Nice.
can you imagine?
already hooked.
I just dive in like that.
I love it.
The
No,
music
so
comes on.
I was living in Miami and I was modeling full time at that time, and
Yeah.
she was actually Miss Florida at that time.
Cool.
And so she was at this convention center in Orlando for a Miss America pageant type thing. And I was going up to Orlando Convention Center for Comic-Con because one of my friends was on a TV show and all that. He invited me up to drive up from Miami. And so as I'm walking through the convention center, I see a mutual friend. And her friend was like, "Hey, I want you to meet my friend Tori." And I looked at her and I said, "Am I supposed to know who you are?"
Keep in mind, it was like full gown, crown, sash, like the
Yeah.
whole
Yes, yes.
get
Like,
up.
She was
Royalty.
It was.
rock.
Yeah.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
It's quite an entrance though. I like it.
the Crown on Netflix wasn't out yet, so that was the original Crown, and I was
For it.
here for it.
I'm for it.
And so I didn't, obviously people get nervous, and I said that pompous remark, but then we ended up becoming Facebook friends, if that dates us at all.
Yeah.
And then I tried to date her. I invited her out to a little coffee, which was like low-key a full day date, and she wasn't ready for that. But then shortly after that, what happened, babe? Tell the nice listeners what happened.
Well, here's the thing. Timing is everything. And at that point in time, to be honest, I wasn't in a healthy place. Yes, I was Miss Florida, and from the outside, everything looked like I was put together and I had my life together. But internally, a lot of stuff was going on. My parents were going through a divorce. My brother was really sick. I was trying to get out of a toxic relationship. Mentally, I just wasn't ready.
Sure.
And so
She ghosted me.
I friend zoned him.
I found myself in the friend zone. I'm actually here to promote my book called How to Get Out of the Friend Zone, a success
It would
story.
actually be like people.
It would be, honestly.
Yeah, it would.
He needs to
Our
write
manager's
it.
in the room, and if he can hear me right now,
Yes.
let's make this happen.
Yeah.
I'm
Get us
telling
a
you,
deal.
a lot
Great.
of guys.
In all seriousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really would. Yeah.
So that was the first friend zone
Okay.
that happened. Then we became friends, or we just like stayed friends for years. We dated other people. And I think 2 years later, we reconnected, but it was right after he had gone through a breakup. And so we start talking again. I remember like we wouldn't kiss, like nothing. It was very like honoring. But I really felt the Lord say like, this is not the right time. Like, focus on your friendship. And I was like,
Right.
dang it. I feel like I could marry this guy. Like, Lord, come on. But
His
at the same
timing is
time,
so
his timing.
Annoying sometimes.
Yes.
But it's always right.
I'm glad you said it because I was thinking.
Yes.
It's always right.
But I remember that saying of like, love is a friendship set ablaze. And I knew that I had to go through such a long process of like breaking a soul tie and like having that intimate relationship with the Lord outside of a relationship. And I knew that he needed that. And
Mhm.
so we had the conversation and I was like, let's be friends again. And he's like,
So
dang it.
I was hoping for a different 3 words, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But she said, "Let's be friends."
Uh-huh.
And
Oh.
at the time, I remember I was in an apartment in New York when we had that phone call, and it needed to happen. She was absolutely right. And I give her so much credit and respect for having the ability to say no to something that she wants in favor of my relationship with the Lord. And I think that's rare nowadays because I think what's being projected in society right now is how can you use and abuse this person to
Sure.
get what you want? But she was saying, I want to edify you and your relationship with the Lord above what I want. And at that moment, I was like, well, now I want to get married. Like, but please come back. And so then I went through a really kind of deep healing process because I didn't realize how deeply I was hurting from that breakup, and went through counseling. I think I had a lot of life things happening all at once. You know, things happen in threes. Well, for me, it's been different. Things happen in 58s.
Yeah.
And so
Nice.
everything around me was crumbling. And then, but I worked through that.
Yeah.
And, then I conned her into
Couple months later.
dating me. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually about like about 7 months later.
Yeah.
I started calling her again. And I remember her reflecting on this story. She would tell her friends, "Oh, that's weird. Chad's calling again." I'm like, "You think that's weird?" Like, we have like 5 years of history and I'm trying to date and marry you. And you think this is weird that I'm calling you?
Like, Chad's calling me again. Okay.
I'm like, oh, yeah.
We're friends.
Yeah.
But the Lord had given me so much peace. You know, I
Yeah.
feel like when you follow his,
that's good.
When you follow his leading, he gives you peace over a situation. And so I look back and I'm like, wow, I remember being like, I could see myself marrying this guy. But when I walked in that obedience, he gave me so much peace.
Right.
And he had ended up moving to California. And I was like, oh, I guess that's why it wasn't supposed to work out. He's moving across the country.
I'm going to reinvent myself.
Yeah. And,
I love it.
But he did con me into a wedding. And so he calls me and he's like, hey, there's
not our wedding, by the way. I didn't, not our wedding.
No, different wedding.
Visit a friend's wedding.
Different
Put on this dress and meet me at this.
There's a pastor there and everything.
Yeah, right.
Oh my goodness. No, so it was one of his old pastors from Miami. He was getting remarried. It was a really cool God redemption story. And he's like, it's in your neck of the woods. It's a daytime wedding, super casual. Like, obviously, I don't want to go alone. You should come with me. I was like, okay, like I have nothing to do that weekend. That sounds fun. So all of my friends are like, Tori, this is a date. And I'm like, no, it's not. We're just friends.
It is a date.
I'm like, no. It's black and white. And they're like, it couldn't be more gray. And then 2 days before, I realized that this wedding is not in my neck of the woods. It's in Miami. So it's a 4-hour drive away. And just so happens.
Shoot their shot, baby. Like, let's go
for it.
She fooled me once.
A family vacation. So it turned into not only a wedding, but his whole family was going to this remote island.
Deal.
Very smart.
Yes.
I tried the whole let's get coffee. It didn't work. I tried the whole let's connect. I think I'm supposed to be a pastor. You know, you ready to be with a pastor?
Oh my God.
You know, and that didn't work. So then I'm like, what else am I going to do?
What do I got?
What do I got in my bullpen? And it was like, hey, take her to a wedding 4
Join me at
hours
this
away
wedding.
and then introduce her to my family on vacation.
I love
Yeah.
it. Not subtle at all.
Not subtle.
I love it. That's
But after
bold.
that weekend, it was sealed.
Cool.
Yeah.
How many years have you guys been married?
Actually,
years next
so when
week.
does this episode come out?
I don't even know. So
Well,
2027.
probably in a couple of months, I would think. Yes.
oh, so for us, we are about to celebrate our 3rd year.
Yeah.
Yep, in a few days.
When's
3
your
years.
wedding anniversary?
February 16th.
Ooh,
That
Valentine's.
may or may not be our Wi-Fi password. So if you come over,
Yes.
okay, it's a way I can remember
Free
the
Wi-Fi.
date.
Yeah.
It's a hack. It's a cheat code.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
That's so cool. I love it. And I love how you guys speak on God's timing. I think that that's so true because just as human beings, we're so impatient and it's, you know, it's our love story, which we won't go into it, but a lot of it, you know, Dave wasn't even supposed to be at our school. We met in college. We're college sweethearts. And he wasn't even supposed to be there that year. He was supposed to be abroad. But he said, and he'd wanted his whole time at Georgetown College in Little Georgetown, Kentucky, he had always wanted to study abroad. And he got into the program and it's very hard to get into. And then he's getting ready to, you know, officially sign that he's going. And he said he just felt God saying, don't go.
Wow.
And he's like,
What?
what are you talking about? Like, this is what I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be his, like a good portion of his junior year. And he just didn't have a peace like what you're talking about, Tori. And so he was kind of mad at God about it. Like, but he followed him. He said, okay, God, I'm going to stay. And then he said, you know, he for some reason waited to take acting class in art. We're both communication majors.
Yeah.
And acting class was part of our degree. We don't even
Which is
I don't know why.
love that.
But it was
so
part of
fun.
it. So, because they called it communication arts. And so he said, I walked in with a hat, which I love hats. And I guess that got your attention. And so
No, it
the
wasn't
rest
the
is
hat.
history.
Who said it was something else?
It's God's timing.
Everything
But
below
it's
the
all
hat.
God's timing.
It was God's timing.
Yes. So I love
And yes. And I'm so thankful. So thankful I wasn't some other random country, you
that.
know.
Yes.
God wanted me
Right
right there. I didn't understand it at first. We rarely
Exactly.
understand why he has us do
Yeah.
what we do at first, but he's always doing something good.
He
I
is.
love that. I love that
Behind the
because it
scenes.
makes me think a little bit of like Mary and Martha, where sometimes we can try to force things. We can
Yes.
force ourselves into a relationship with the Lord because we think we know what's best, and sometimes that is good, right?
Mhm.
But there's always something that's better, and that's what Mary chose. And I feel like
Yes.
you putting that thing on hold that was good and cool, you chose ultimately what's better. But
Yeah.
when you're faced with that wall, you're like, well, I don't know what's behind the wall. I don't know that it's my future wife with a cool hat.
Right. It's so
Yeah.
true, though. No, it's so true. And I just love that. And I would love for you guys to tell us what you do now together, because you guys do a lot of similar things to what we do, encouraging other, not only couples, but just people in their walk with the Lord and singles and couples alike. And so can you guys tell us more about that?
Yeah. So we have a YouTube channel, and it honestly was really crazy how the Lord opened that door in general. We had just gotten married. It was kind of funny how it all worked. Do you want to share that?
I got thinking of like, if there's like a hidden door in someone's house, you don't know about it. Imagine you just lean on the wall just to, just relax. Then the door opens. That's kind of how YouTube happened for us. We kind of we leaned on a wall and we fell into something that was really turned out to be a huge blessing.
I mean,
that's a really good way to describe it.
Your naturals though, and it's easy to see. Like it's just how God's wired you guys up to thrive in that medium, because
That's sweet.
It's a natural fit.
Yeah,
So I totally see why you guys have reached all the people that you've reached, and it continues to grow. And you share great stuff.
Well, and I think what helps is that you can teach experience, but you can't really teach passion. And I think our passion is for people, and specifically, Tori and I always say that we want to be the people we wish we had.
Yeah.
And so age aside, gender aside, all that stuff aside, we wish that we had people in our hardest moments telling us things that we try to tell people.
Yeah.
And so that's really where it was born. But I mean, there's a whole long story of how we got started and what it's becoming, which we're super excited about. But we just want to be who we wish we had. Yeah. And we also have a daily devotional podcast called Mornings with the Masters, and it's every day. Yeah. It's between 6 to 10 minutes long, and we love it because we started it right after 2020. Because for our audience, 2020, for everyone, it was a really tough year for everyone. And we thought to ourselves, with the encouragement of our management, it's like, well, what do your audience really want? And what they wanted was more content. Where I'm like, well, that's stressful. Content's hard. Like y'all's job is hard. It's like it's difficult. So we're like, okay, well, how do we create something that's going to help them each day, but it's not too intense on the content side of things? So daily devotional. Yeah. And now something that we're really excited to talk about is we're actually releasing our very own new long form podcast called That's Hot. And it's all about
we got from you guys.
Do you remember?
I probably
you guys
don't remember, but this was a sidebar conversation that we had with you guys
in like the green room.
Yeah, at the green room. And you said something and you're like, yeah, that's hot. And we were like, what? And you were like honest, open, and transparent.
You remember
we were
this?
Like, we're stealing that. And you were like, take it. And I'm like, no, I don't think you understand. You tell me to take it.
So I want to take it from someone else.
Take it.
So for us, it's so fitting for us to think about, number one, we got the idea from you all. And number two, you're going to be our first guests on that podcast.
That's hot.
That's hot.
Right?
That's hot. Yeah. We love
it.
Love it.
Yeah. But that really is like so much of what we do is we've realized that there's so many people in that waiting season, whether that's they're single and they're waiting for their person, or they have their person, they're waiting to be engaged or married, and now they're waiting for a baby or whatever. There's always these seasons of waiting, and it's hard to navigate that. And so we felt like we were just getting a ton of questions about singleness, about faith, about how to wait well. And that really was what like birthed the channel, where we were like, okay, well, how can we birthed our channel. I love it. It was like something, when it's like forming inside of you, and it happens, and you're like, okay, this is a God thing. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So good. It is so good.
I want to ask, and I know I keep on having the questions, sweetie. If
but
you've got a question, you pop right in.
I would.
Yes.
I love you. You've got such good questions
today. I would love to hear. We've been married 20 years, and so it's been a minute since we've been married 3 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do
trying to
remember
remember
those days,
back.
but man, that's a long time ago. Like some days it feels like a world ago, and other days it's like yesterday. Like I told my son, who's 16, almost 17, the other day, I said, in my mind, sweetie, I said, I'm 20 years old in my mind, like forever. Yeah. And I was 20 when we got married, actually. And so I was like, in my mind, I'm 20. And I don't know why. I mean, that sounds silly. And that's like a really, I don't know why. Some people say 30, whatever. But I'm like, in my mind, I'm just 20. Like, a young whippersnapper just ready to conquer the world.
You look 20.
I just sounded like such an old person.
I feel that sometimes, like, I'm 20. But then I hang out with 20-year-olds and I'm like, no, I'm 43.
No, yes, I know.
I'm no longer 20.
I'm not 20.
I'm going to bed early.
Like you know what I'm saying?
I totally
you just kind of hold on to that moment.
Yeah.
And so it's been a while, but what would you say in these 3 years? What are some things you've learned, and what are some even? And you can get as specific as you want, but just some things that have surprised you, maybe that have been easier, and some things that have been harder.
When people asked me particularly what I was most surprised about in marriage, My first thing.
This is called the Naked Podcast, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're safe.
Naked marriage.
Yes.
Yes.
No, it's not bad, but like people are so different. And so Chad and I, like I'm more of the extrovert where I get filled up by people being around and I want to externally process everything. And I'm used to being with a lot of girlfriends. And so I want to talk about everything all the time. And for him, he's an introvert. So when he's around people is like so talkative.
So the way I say it is I love people, but I don't always like them. And so sometimes I recharge alone, but I love people. I love being around people, but I definitely need some time to decompress just to clear my thoughts. And I'm not in a verbal processor. I just think about everything.
Well, and that's really the distinctive of introvert extrovert. I think there's a lot of misconceptions, not to get too far off the rails here, but people think extroverts love people, introverts don't love people. And that's not at all true. Like introverts love people, but it's about how you recharge.
Yes.
And if you need to get alone to recharge, then that's like the sign. And there's nothing at all wrong with having to get alone to recharge. I think even extroverts need some of that. But
I feel like I need to learn to pursue that more because I don't necessarily feel like I need it. But every time I get it, I'm like, oh, this is why people do this. I feel so recharged. This feels great. Like the silence is actually awesome. But when we first got married and he needed alone time, I would take it personally. And I'm like, oh, you want to be away from me. Like you don't want to talk about this with me. And now I've learned, oh, like he needs that just for him. Like he needs that for him and God. Like it actually has nothing to do with me at all. And so I feel like that was one of the first lessons that I had to learn when we first got married was, and especially because we work together too. So we're together 24/7, which is different, like not every couple can do that. And so me being not only okay with it, but encouraging him in that was something I felt like I really had to learn.
Yeah. And I think that's something we still struggle with because on her side, I would just white knuckle everything where I'm just squeezing because I don't want to upset her by saying I want to be alone right now. Because obviously people can take that offensively. They can, let it take root and like, oh, he doesn't want to be around me. And my whole thing was I don't want to be around anybody. So it's not just you. I don't want to be around anybody. But I, thought I needed just to, sacrifice myself and just deal with it and whatever. But then I realized that was making me a bad husband. I was pretty bitter walking around. I was like anxious. I wasn't excited. I wasn't joyful. I wasn't joking. I wasn't fun to be around. And I kind of wondered, did I change in marriage? Did I get married and now I'm a grumpy old guy, But no, I realized I wasn't giving myself time to just recharge because now I'm with someone 24/7 because we live together, we work together, and we always are just in communication, which by the way, number one tip for us in relationships is communicate. That's like our tip, right? Communication. Sure. But I had to feel comfortable communicating to her. And I know that there's been things in our marriage where she's been afraid to talk to me. And honestly, it breaks my heart when she's like, I was scared to talk to you about this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want you to feel like that. Yeah. I don't want you to, I'm your person. I don't ever want you. But there was things I was doing that made her feel that way. It wasn't her fault. It was my fault. And so I had to get over some of my own hurdles in a sense of feeling comfortable saying like, hey, I need to be alone right now. And that was a hard one because I don't want to upset her. You never want to upset your spouse, right?
Yeah. Well, and I was used to living with a bunch of girls. So I'm like, oh, we just talk about everything all the time. Like, which pants should I wear today?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's like, these decisions are like stressing me out. I was like, wait, what? What do you mean?
Especially as a fixer, right? Where I'm just like, buy more clothes. Like, like you don't have anything to wear, go shop. I can't help you.
Let's fix it. I'm on Amazon right now. I ordered you 5 pairs of different pants.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the funniest moments we had in our relationship, this was like a come to Jesus moment where it was one of like our first day of fight, like full day fights. You guys ever had those where you're just disconnecting all day where like you'll have a fight and then you'll reconnect and then you have another fight and then you reconnect and it just
off day.
Off day.
Yeah. It's taken me like early on, I would go a couple days before I even realized. I was like, wait a second. Are we fighting? Are we like, I had no idea. It took me a while. So like barometer's gotten a little better.
But that is hilarious. So what happened was I woke up on the wrong side of the bed and then Tori, as I was trying to work out of just being in a funk, she kind of got in my face about it to shake me up with that. And I do not do that. Like, if I'm upset, I'm like almost like a grenade. Get away, right? Run.
Why are you looking at me?
Was there a little subtlety there?
It is similar with me.
Yes.
If you pull the pin, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be a good time.
Yeah.
And then so that caused another fight. But then I got over that. I moved on. I do rebound pretty quick. And then she started to fall off later on that afternoon. And the first thing I did was I ran to the bathroom and I drew her a bath and I put her Bible next to the bath and I said, go, right? She wanted me to get in her face and shake her out of it, the down moment she was having. So I loved her the way I loved her the way I wanted to be loved and vice versa.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was a funny moment. I laughed about that for a while because it's so interesting in like the love language game.
Yes.
How often we do unto others what we wish they would do to us, the golden rule. But I think we also just need to, my buddy Gabe says it so well, we need to have a PhD in our spouse. We need to study them. We need to know what makes them tick. We need to know what comforts them and know everything. And
that's the key. And bring out the best in them. Like even the introvert extrovert thing. Like if your spouse needs time alone, give them time alone.
You're so good at that with me. But even though I am very much an extrovert, and the older I get, the more extroverted I get. Yeah. And I think some of it too is life.
You mean introvert.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I was like, huh.
You're an extrovert? You're like,
how am I just finding out?
No, an introvert. I'm sorry. Thank you, sweetie. I'm very much an introvert. And I think part of it is, seasons of life too. Like if you have people around you all the time, you pull away.
Yeah.
And Dave is so sweet about giving me that time. But early in our marriage, and he's kind of you're like an ambivert. I heard that's an actual thing.
You can read minds?
I've never heard
You know that movie reference?
I love it. Yes. Zoolander. Yes.
Oh.
Give me blue steel, right? Okay.
Yeah, blue steel.
But he's an ambivert, so he's kind of both. But I didn't realize, I was just thinking he's an extrovert. And as a pastor, it's really good if you're an extrovert. I mean, you are with the people all the time. And Dave can just go all day, doing that.
I play an extrovert well.
You do play an extrovert well. But he does have limits. And so I remember when we were first married, there was one day where you were just having an off day and he was literally I was following him around just trying to talk stuff through and you were literally trying to escape me. I was just
I can picture this.
Trying to fight with him, but I was just really needing to talk something out.
I'm like, I'm out of words.
He keeps on escaping.
I'm out of words.
And finally he turns around to me and he goes, sweetie, he's like breathing real hard and he's like, I can be hot, I can be hungry, I can be tired, but I can't be all three at the same time. And I just need some time. I need some time.
Is that what he said?
And he's literally shaking and so worried, not mad. He was just I'm like a caged animal, animal. And I was I had no idea.
Drafty house that was way too hot in the summer, way too cold in the winter.
Yes.
And so I was hot and sweaty and
hungry.
When you're uncomfortable, it's not fun.
I've been around people all day.
Yeah.
And I was just so uncomfortable. I just needed a moment.
Yeah.
And I was not
and I wanted to be
at
my best. I just wanted to be at my best for you. Because I hate when I feel like I'm in a no-win situation. Like if we continue this conversation, I'm not going to win. It's going to just so give me a minute so that we can win and just giving each other space, learning each other's rhythms. Because early on she wouldn't want to stay up late at night doing work on projects. I was going to bed early. I was on old man time back before I was an old man. And it was kind of a fender when at 10 p.m. I didn't want to start painting a room with her. I'm like,
I got really mad at him.
Doing? She would just get her feelings hurt. And I'm like, it is
bedtime.
It was bedtime. I'm so mad at you.
And I thought you were just being lazy. I was like, because my parents did this. My parents would start painting a room at 10 p.m.
In the middle of the night.
That's interesting.
All the time, you guys. My parents flipped homes before that was a thing. And so in our home that we lived in was a perpetual flip that was supposed to be a flip that we never moved out of my childhood.
Got it.
And so mom would just redo these rooms and my dad would go along with it. And they're kind of both night owls, really. And they would paint at 10 p.m. So, you do what you think is normal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like,
this is not
we're painting this room.
Wait, how did y'all get on the same rhythm?
We didn't.
Oh my God.
We just learned to respect
each
other's
respect each other's rhythms.
That's cool.
No, got it. Different. So what we do, we really talk about, couples who do have different rhythms to find those times when you are, you meet together. Like bedtime, for instance. Yeah. We'll have time together before he goes to bed. We tease and say, I tuck him in. I tuck him in.
That is super cute.
And then he
lets me go to sleep and I get up way early. And
I do my projects.
I'll get stuff done in the morning. And then middle of the day, it overlaps. And, but and
of course we work together, so we're with each other.
Appreciate each other's rhythm. Instead of trying to instead of making her try to be a morning person or me a night owl, we're like, that's how God wired us. Let's just embrace the flow and work with it.
It took some time, but I'm telling you, one thing that really helped me, and then we're going to get on to you guys more too. I'm sorry I got on a tangent with that.
No, I love it.
I like it.
One thing that really helped me was realizing when I can see like the telltale signs that Dave is having hot, tired, hungry moment. Yeah. Which, I mean, gosh, after 20 years, I definitely know. I'll be like, hey, have you had a run? Or, what can I, like, especially like if it's mornings with our kids, sometimes can be a little hectic. And so, just this week they were just kind of crazy. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take the morning shift for a little bit so you can ease into your morning. Like, cause it's better. Yeah. He is a morning person. And if he can have his quiet time and get a bunch of work done, and Dave is like he's just amazing, gets so much done in such a little amount of time. But if he's in a funk, he can't, because he's like trying to undo. I mean, we all know how that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I try to if I can see the signs, I try to help make whatever needs to happen. Yeah. Like if he needs to go on a run, readjust our schedule, however. And he does the exact same thing for me. He's so good to me about that. So yeah, rhythms are huge.
Teamwork makes the dream work. I love that.
So true.
So there's another thing, as you guys were sharing, that I was thinking about that really was a big game changer for us early into marriage, was realizing that like my spouse is not my enemy. The enemy's my enemy. And it's from one of our favorite movies. Tori introduced me to the movie.
The War Room.
The War Room. Have you guys ever heard of that? Seen it?
So good. Yeah.
That movie so much.
And it's one of those where we really learned to, like, I remember one time we were trying to work together and the work day was just not working well at all. And then we were conflicting a bit. And then
actually the same day we were talking about earlier.
Oh, was it the same day?
It was the same day.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a day.
That was a day.
That was a doozy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember sitting down and just trying to collect, because I just wanted to be angry with her and I wanted to be right.
Yeah.
And eventually but I'm also really competitive, and I'm very competitive with the enemy. Yeah. As in, like, I'm just like, I'm that guy that if I accidentally cursed him out, I'm sorry. Is the enemy. I'm sorry. What do you want me to do? Yeah. And so I remember thinking to myself, wow, he is getting a foothold in my marriage and I don't like that. Yeah. And so I walked out to Tori and I pulled one of these. I'm like, listen.
Game time.
I don't want to love you right now and you don't want to love me right now. But right now the enemy's getting exactly what he wants in our marriage. And similar to, I'm sure you guys have said it or heard it, where before marriage, the enemy wants you in bed, and after marriage, the enemy wants you out of bed. Right. And I was like, we're not, this is not happening. We're not doing this right now. And so I had to look at us as both imperfect people, broken, and need to support each other and be a good team to work against the enemy versus us just getting angry with each other and not take it so personal.
So then we sat down and watched The War Room. And then had sex, and then we were back.
Oh, yes. That's a good night right there.
It's worship. I think people forget that.
Absolutely.
It's not just an act. It's a form of worship.
It's specifically for married couples. Like, it's so awesome. No, I love that. And it's so true. And it definitely is a tension reliever too. So after a rough day like that.
There's been times where I'm like, take that, devil.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, take that.
Yeah.
You didn't want us here. Here we are.
Yeah. It's like, when I think about it, when I think of like in Genesis, whenever God gave Adam and Eve, they were working before sin entered the world. Yeah. And so work was a good thing. And now I feel like we have this bad relationship with it most of the time, where it's like, oh, the old 9 to 5. Yeah. It's like, no, work is a good thing for us. And, but then when you hear what God said to them, what to do in the garden in terms of like subdue and all this, and he said, fill the earth. That's a good thing. That's a good thing that God could have just created more people, but he gave that to us to do. And this is a good thing for us.
Yeah.
Man,
absolutely.
That is so good.
And it's a privilege. Like I think so much, what I hear you guys saying is shifting how you look at what you're doing for your marriage. When you look at it like a privilege and as serving your spouse and fostering your marriage, this beautiful gift that God has given you, it's not a chore, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just, it's something that you're doing out of joy instead of out of dread.
Yeah, so, I love that. It's all about the optics.
Yes.
That's called full circle.
Full circle, man.
I love it.
Way to bring it. Way to bring it
full
back.
Circle.
Guys, listen, we're going to continue this conversation, but we're going to do it in a unique way in this episode. We're going to continue the conversation, but you've got to be one of our premium podcast subscribers to get this next part of the conversation, where I'm going to ask Chad and Tori each, outside of the things they've already shared here about communication and about all the great stuff they've shared, what is one of your very favorite pieces of marriage advice? And let each of them share, and it's going to be pure gold. So to get in on that, go to this site, go to nakedmarriage.supercast.com. And what you're going to get as a premium podcast subscriber, not only you're going to get the rest of this conversation, but you're going to get premium content that we don't share anywhere else, full episodes we don't share anywhere else. You're going to get ad-free episodes, so you're not going to have to listen to ads if you don't want to, even though we love and appreciate our ad partners. And you're also going to be partnering with us to help create more content. It's $5 a month. It's what you'll spend on a latte. And that $5 a month is going to make you a partner where you are joining with us here at XO Marriage to help build stronger marriages, help build stronger families, help connect people to Christ, help save marriages that are struggling. And we appreciate that so much. And so that premium content is just our way to thank you. So again, go to nakedmarriage.supercast.com and check out the rest of our conversation with Chad and Tori Masters.